In the last 2 years, the scientific consensus on climate change has gotten stronger, surging past the famous and controversial figure of 97% to more than 99.9%, according to a study I wrote about last week. James L. Powell, director of the National Physical Science Consortium, reviewed more than 24,000 peer-reviewed papers on global warming published in 2013 and 2014. He found that only 5 rejected the reality of rising temperatures or the fact that human emissions are the cause. And he further found that those 5 articles were written by 4 lonely souls. So that got me thinking, who are these 4 horsemen of what, in their view, is a non-apocalypse? I'll tell you. Number 1, Francois Gervais. He's a retired professor of physics in France and the author of the 2014 paper, Tiny Warming of Residual Anthropogenic CO2. That was published by the International Journal of Modern Physics, which is published by a company based in Singapore. Gervais's big idea is that CO2 has a small to negligible effect on global temperature, and that most of the recorded warming is related to a 60-year oscillation, basically a natural shift in the climate. He was a volunteer reviewer of the most recent IPCC report on global warming, and he touts this fact in public anytime he gets the chance. Now, I looked at the comments he made, nearly 20 of them. Almost half were either rejected or dismissed as unclear by the authors of the report. And the rest were noted but not incorporated because, as the authors kept pointing out, the thing he says that no one is considering, this 60-year oscillation stuff, is in fact being considered over and over again. So that's Francois. He's the climate oscillation guy. Francois is also a signer of the faith-based letter of opposition to the Pope's recent encyclical on climate change. And he's an unintentional poet. Tiny warming, I mean, that's got a nice ring to it. Too bad his work has been debunked and contradicted in thousands of papers. Okay, climate denier number 2, Heinz Hug, great name. His paper is listed as peer-reviewed, but if you look at it, it's actually a one-pager that seems more like an opinion piece. It's published in German in a journal that roughly translates to Chemistry News. And Hug's argument is that there's already so much CO2 in the atmosphere that the absorption of CO2 is complete, and any more of it plays no role. So he's claiming that carbon emissions aren't an issue, and our warming is because of radiation from space. Now, this has been debunked, and no one has cited the paper. So that's Mr. Heinz Hug. He's a CO2 is A-OK kind of guy. Now, number 3, S.V. Avakan. He has a very lush title. Let me see if I can get this right. Head of the Laboratory of Aerospace Physical Optics at the Vavilov State Optical Institute. He's also a leading researcher at the, again, lush title, Ross Central Polko I told you, it was going to be hard. It's a very complicated title. He's a Russian guy, and his paper is on the role of solar activity in global warming. It appeared in the Herald of the Russian Academy of Sciences. Now, this solar activity theory has been thoroughly debunked, but this guy promotes it anyway, and maybe he has his own reasons. I mean, on the first page of his article, for example, he worries about Mother Russia. Here's a quote. The switch of the world powers, first to decreasing the use of fossil fuel and then to carbon-free energy, may lead to economic collapse for Russia as a consequence of the reduction and probably even loss of the possibility to sell oil and natural gas on the world market. So that is Mr. Avakan. He is a solar radiation guy. And last but not least, climate denier number 4, William Happer. He's a physics professor at Princeton, and he's famous for telling Congress in 2010 that the warming will be small, and also the warming will be good for mankind. Last year, Happer was interviewed by CNBC, our corporate friends, and during this interview, he said that, quote, demonization of carbon dioxide is just like the demonization of the poor Jews under Hitler. This is a thing he said a couple times. He thinks that we're after carbon in a cruel, irrational way. And he thinks that if we have lots of CO2, plants will be really happy, and they'll produce more food, and hunger will recede from the earth. Not really according to the establishment, because if we have lots of CO2, we'll all be dead, or our land will be desert. But there you have it. 4 writers, 1 reputable citation among the 4 of them, according to Powell. They are the 0.01% of the academic world who still, in peer-reviewed articles, deny the reality of dangerous man-made global warming. They're out there working. Set your Google alerts today.